We then get some footage from Heat of Big Show and Mankind brawling backstage as Austin arrives in the background. Big Show had been sent to watch for Austin to enter the building, but obviously got distracted by Mankind. Kevin Kelly then interviews Mankind, who talks about wanting to be a part of the main event, but not being given the chance, having been screwed out of the world title by the Big Show in a ladder match against The Rock on Raw in February. That is then next, the Big Show versus Mankind. The result of this match will determine who the referee is for the main event. It is a match that goes for just under 7 minutes, and ends when Big Show gets himself disqualified by hitting Mankind with a chair too many times, which I'm sure Matt was absolutely delighted about. So before we go to you, Matt, let's talk to you, Alex. What did you think?
Yeah, overall, again, I thought it was good. I was entertained throughout the match. Little things. Mankind spray painted his shirt as the referee shirt. It was fantastic. The Big Show was blowing out of his arse quite early on in this match. He was a tired Big Show. And then I am gonna be a hypocrite here. I am gonna be a hypocrite because the WrestleMania 4 episode, I went off on one about the endings and how someone's been why is that not a DQ, and this has happened, inconsistent. Now this happens in this match, but I actually didn't care. I was all right with it because I was just entertained throughout. There was low blow by Mankind, and I thought, yeah, and then there was chair shots, and I thought, well, I'm loving it. I'm well into this. I'm well into it. And then obviously, yeah, the chair shots were there was the DQ at the end, which I get that is a plot hole, but I was just along for the ride. And yeah, I thought it was good. I did not like that bump that Mankind took when Big Show just fell backwards on him. It's no wonder Mick Foley's knackered with taking bumps like that. It didn't add anything to the match. It just wasn't really needed. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you mentioned about Mick Foley taking bumps at Alex, because for me that's kind of the story of this match. And it's the last time we saw Mick Foley as well, I got a bit of a problem of I admire the fact that he really is trying to do. You can definitely tell he's trying to do everything he physically can to get the match that he's in as over as possible. And whenever, people say, I definitely gave it 100% out there, a lot of the times I think is bollocks. Whenever Mick Foley says it, I legit feel he is 100% doing everything that he physically can to get it over. And seeing the shape that he appears to be in today, and it's quite sad in a way, because, all right, okay, you're not going to know it at the time, but certainly in hindsight, looking at it now, this match versus the Big Show, he was probably trying to do everything he can to make it feel special and a big deal. And does anybody remember this? Do fans clamour and talk about that great match he had with the Big Show at WrestleMania? No, nobody does. I'd say nobody. There's bound to be one or two, but for the most part, nobody does. And yeah, I did find it quite uncomfortable to see the type of bumps that he would take. And again, like I said, steel steps came into play. He took a hell of a bump over the steps, and he always does, to be fair, but I cringed at some of the stuff he was doing. Now, the DQ finish, I'm not going to shout and scream over it because I'm just done. I'm just done and over it. But it was a particularly bad example here because I assumed it was no DQ because they were doing things that would get them disqualified. Then all of a sudden there's a DQ. So I did literally just jump up and go, what the hell was that? Admittedly, this is, I suppose, me being a little bit hypocritical here with, saying how I cringe at some of the bumps the Foley takes. But the chokeslam onto the chairs didn't really work, did it? They tried to make it look devastating, and that kind of fell a bit flat. So that was a bit naff. Props for effort, but no, that didn't really work. Yeah, and then you had the bit where Vince comes out and tries to admonish Big Show at the end. Big Show goes to chokeslam him, but decides to change his mind. That's where Vince then slaps him, and Big Show gives him the old sort of KO punch. Probably would have been cool if he chokeslammed him, but never mind. That's what they went with. We needed to see Vince later on, so maybe that's why they didn't want him completely dead. This wasn't the best. Wasn't the best use of either guy. I don't think so. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, it was a rubbish match. And I do agree as well. For very little return, Mankind's thrown himself all over the place, putting himself through hell. And here's the other thing. Why? Why does the winner of this need to be the referee of the main event? Mankind does come out in the main event at the end. But he could have done that anyway without being the referee, just to get rid of Vince. That would have been fine, I don't know why. I don't get why there has to be one of these two guys as the referee, which is the reason why they have to have Mankind win, which is the reason why they have to have the DQ, because the Big Show just debuted a month ago. Not only did he debut a month ago, but they signed him to a 10-year deal, rumored to be worth $1 million a year at the time. Probably the biggest contract WWE had ever given out, with the exception possibly of Austin by this point, and with the exception also of Brett, but they didn't honor the end of that. They didn't honor that contract in the end. Big Show was the first big signing WWE made away from WCW as well as part of this Monday Night War. So the traffic had always been the other way prior to this point. WCW had signed all the big names that they could possibly get their hand on that had been WWF stars. This was the first one who'd gone the other way, and WWF, in fairness to them, got the theoretically what should have been the best end of that, because Big Show was still very young. He was a big star. He had been cast into the main event immediately by WCW, and now WWE got their hands on him. And yet here we are, 1 month in at WrestleMania, and what does Vince Russo do? And what does Vince McMahon allow him to do? Turn him babyface. Within a month of joining the company and joining the corporation, he's turned babyface. And he's a big guy, 7 foot, 500 pounds, to hear the commentators talking about it. What the hell are you doing? There's no wonder why Big Show, as legitimately, not even hyperbole, had about 700 turns during his time in the WWE. And that's something, and I'm not saying this with any, this is not me exaggerating. Wrestlers should turn once and at most twice in their entire career, in my view. Wrestling has completely changed and doesn't do that anymore. And I think it's wrong. I think that's completely wrong. If you're changing the entire constitution of a character, you better have a very exceptional reason for doing so. Otherwise, it's ridiculous. And it makes a complete farce of wrestling in general. Big Show had turned once in a month of his career of the WWE, and in 1999 he would then go on to turn about 4 or 5 other times during the year. It's absolutely insane. What a way to mismanage someone. To your point, Alex, you're right, he's out of shape, but you've made a major investment in this guy. At least protect him as much as you possibly can and give him the best chance to succeed. So this is just another example of Russo's excesses during this year, and WWE, I'm not going to call it Russo's, I'm just going to call it WWE's excesses, because it's not really fair. Vince Russo still had Vince McMahon with him, so it wasn't like Vince Russo was in total control of this stuff. Big Show, $1 million a year, 10-year contract, biggest signing they've made during the Monday Night Wars, and you turn him babyface within a month. My goodness.